Hello again from Geneva, Switzerland, where I am representing PHRGE as part of the civil society delegation to the UN review of the U.S. under the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, or CERD. I am sitting right now in front of, actually in back of the Palais des Nations, which is the center of the UN complex and the sort of the most grand building here at the UN complex in Geneva, giving you a little panoramic view. Let me make sure you can still see me. Oh, okay, yes you can. Anyway, today was the second and final day of the U.S. review by the CERD committee. First, what happened was the committee raised any additional questions that it had. Yesterday, I may have mentioned that they did not get through all of the committee members' questions. And then after that, the U.S. government had an opportunity to respond. The government brought a huge delegation of probably over 20 people from a number of different agencies, including the Department of Justice, the Department of HUD, the State Department, the Department of Labor, the Department of Health and Human Services, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, a number of different departments and other ones that I probably have forgotten to mention. Anyway, Aaron Smith, my colleague from Columbia Human Rights Institute, and I were excited that Representative Hahueto from Togo committee member Hahueto from Togo raised access to justice in civil cases, the issue that we've been working on. She specifically raised concerns about how the U.S. Supreme Court recognizes the right to counsel in criminal cases but not civil cases, and how this institutionalizes discrimination against racial minorities because of the disparate impact it has on people of color. She listed evictions, discrimination in the workplace, healthcare disputes, and credit-related disputes as areas where litigants suffer when they don't have an attorney. And we were excited to hear that because that was coming from the research that we had presented to the committee. Ms. Hahueto also raised one of our recommendations that hadn't come up yet, that the government research and provide documentation of the impact of lack of counsel on racial minorities. So that was exciting. As I've mentioned, I've sort of been wearing two hats here. In addition to the access to counsel work, I've been working with the housing work group. And we were a little disappointed in the housing work group because the committee did not give as much attention to housing issues as we would have liked. Luckily, after some last-minute advocacy this morning by my colleagues from the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty and the Chicago Anti-Eviction Campaign, committee member January Bardil from South Africa raised the issue of the disparate impact of the foreclosure crisis and predatory lending practices on families of color. At the very end, also, committee chairperson Kalitse from Guatemala mentioned a concern about the criminalization of homelessness, which was another committee priority area. So we were happy that those things made their way in, but wish that housing issues could have been a little bit more of a focus. So hopefully they'll also make their way into the committee's concluding observations. The concluding observations represent recommendations from official UN body on the United States' treaty obligations, so they can be particularly useful in our domestic advocacy. This afternoon, the network had a debrief of our work here. People shared their excitement, disappointment, hopes for the concluding observations, and goals for future organizing. We also had some complicated but really important conversations about what it means to work in solidarity with each other. We're a really diverse group, ranging from grassroots organizers to sort of professional advocates working for huge organizations. And we also range from sort of allies to directly impacted people. And so I really appreciated some of the conversations we began today and look forward to ongoing conversations. I leave tomorrow. And I'm hoping that the committee will come out with a strong set of concluding observations that we can bring home to the U.S. and use to hold our government accountable. So thank you so much for following along in my adventures in Geneva. It's been a great honor and pleasure to do work here, and this will be my last blog post. So see you all back in the United States.